Hi everyone, this is Chris with Audio Discovery. Today I wanted to go over the PC2A, which is an LA2A emulation in Cakewalk. This is a compressor. It's pretty much like a world piece of gear. It's about $4,000 if you wanted to buy one new, $10,000 and over if you wanted to get a vintage piece. So real quick, let's talk about the dials. Okay, and so this is, you would call it up in your Pro channel, and then you would add peak reduction. So your signal would go through, you leave gain alone, you add peak reduction to see the needle move. We have this muted, so we're gonna just look at the needle movement here. And so here's the gain reduction. So we're seeing that the normal signal is getting reduced. We can have no peak reduction, and then we can start in to see when the circuit starts to operate. And we can determine by using our ears. Right now I'm talking over this, so I don't want to distract, but we can determine how much compression we want to add. We can listen to the artifacts of compression to see what we like. And then another thing we have here is the R37 dial, which would allow us, it's basically a side chain, or it's a detection circuit that is frequency dependent. So we can say we want to hear everything, including the low. We want to hear compression that is affected by the low end. And then when the compression starts ignoring the low end and starts being affected by things that are more in the mid range, depending on how you use it. So what this will do is it will smooth out compression so that the bass drum isn't, or the bass instruments are not overloading the circuit and making everything else quiet, is that it can kind of be a little bit more even. And we're just looking for that compression to sound even. Okay, so then once you reduce your signal, like say for instance, I'm going to reduce this by quite a bit because I want meter to read dramatically, then I'm going to add the gain. And once I add gain, it's going to take that whole signal and it's going to limit, and your compress switch is going to determine the ratio. It also give you a certain artifact of compression. So you want to listen for it, and it's very well defined. It's something more that's going like a different type of compression. Okay, and then the last thing we're going to talk about is this dial here, which will essentially give you an idea of the level afterwards. So we're reading the gain reduction. So the needle is displaying how much gain reduction it is. The dB full scale, which is essentially just giving you sort of like a meter to read. And then you have, if you need the needle to a little bit louder, a little bit more sensitive, then you would add either +4 or +10. Okay, so the only thing I have left to talk about is the strategy for using an LA2A. Again, I would suggest starting with the peak reduction, and you would have the gain at either a default setting or something where it's when you listen to it on and off, it's at the same. And then you would add your peak reduction, so that way you start to listen to the compression and start to hear what that sounds like. And then once that gets to a point where you think that the sound sounds good, then you would add gain. If it starts sounding too quiet and you still wanted to hear it a little bit more compressed, add a little bit of gain, and then you would just sort of tweak between adding more gain reduction, adding more, or peak reduction, adding more gain, and being able to sort of play around with that to where you want to hear the compression sound the way you want it to, but you're also hearing enough level, and then you can listen back to and make sure that you're level matching. Okay, and the last thing is there is a if you add the 1176, in this case is the PC76 in Cakewalk by Bandlab in the Pro channel, you can do this. There is a technique for, I know a lot of people use it for singers, but you can use this in any application that you want to have a two-stage compression technique. And so you would use the 1176 style compression with the attack all the way up. So you would have the attack being as fast as possible and have the release pretty fast, and that way you're going to catch a lot of the peak transients, and you're going to pull those down, pull up that middle section, and really get that to sort of start to get that to sound aggressive, and then you can even it out by putting the PC2A on afterwards. And so it's a technique that takes a little bit of time to dial in, pun intended, but it's actually something that is pretty well known and utilized quite a bit. Thanks for listening. This has been Chris from Audio Discovery, and take care.